Hello everybody! Today we have a very exciting video because it's the Q&A time. A few weeks ago I asked you to submit your questions here in my YouTube videos or on my Instagram. Here's my handle, go follow. I received so many questions, I was blown away, and today I will try to answer the majority of your questions. So grab a drink and let's get straight into it. The amount of questions I received is pretty crazy. I'm so grateful. So let's begin. Question number one, is it easier to be a foreigner in Canada or the UK? For me, it's 100% Canada. I've been a foreigner in both countries, but I feel like Canada is a lot more used to people being from other countries. A lot of people that we meet are either themselves foreigners or come from other provinces, or they have parents or grandparents who have gone through this process, so they're very familiar with how difficult this whole process is. So people are very understanding, and also I feel like people in Canada have been raised surrounded by different cultures. It's not like I've noticed a lot of racism in England, but I feel like people are very accepting here of different cultures, different points of views, so that's great, and for me I think Canada wins here. The next question. Does it get boring when it snows for several days? Do you need to be creative at home? I don't think it gets boring. I feel like Calgary is so accustomed to terrible weathers that people manage to get outdoors even when it's super cold or snowy. The government, I think, is pretty understanding of how difficult it might be to get out of the house just straight after the big snowfall. So they clear the major roads pretty quickly. They organize things like heated LRT stations or this wonderful system that they only have downtown at the moment. It's called Plus 15. It's like overhead tunnels that connect major buildings downtown Calgary. So if you, let's say, work in this building and have a meeting with somebody in this building, you don't have to even put your coat on. Over all the traffic, you don't have to stand and wait at the traffic light when it's minus 25 just to cross the road to another building. So that's really helpful. And people themselves tend to be outside quite a lot. There are a lot of outdoor activities for winter, such as skiing, ice skating. There's plenty of skating rinks in every community, so that's pretty amazing. Do you think a single person can manage in Calgary with the rent and everything? I really think you can if you find a job, and I don't think it would be a big problem to find a job. It just depends on what industry you're looking in. There is a lot of retail positions available. You can see hiring announcements on a lot of shops, so I don't think you'll have a problem. I actually met one of my subscribers in HomeSense. He moved a few months ago and found a job almost straight away. And if you do find a job in the industry that you're interested in, I think the salaries in Calgary and Alberta are pretty decent compared to what I hear about Vancouver and Toronto. So with the higher salaries and higher prices, I think you will still have that little bit of leftover after you've paid all of your bills, so that's not a bad situation. The next question we have, go-to shops for all your family needs that have become a part of your routine. Well, I'm a Costco girl. I go for almost everything to Costco. I do my weekly grocery shopping at Costco, and if there are some little items that we have left to buy, we usually go to Co-op or Superstore. We like those too. How much more expensive are things like car insurance compared to the UK? I have been getting questions like this quite a lot lately, especially on my Instagram. People are direct messaging me, and I don't get it really, because I have made a video about the cost of living in Calgary a few months ago, and I think that's a very useful video, but for some reason people don't manage to find it. So what I suggest, I will link this video up here and you guys can watch it, comment on it, like the video, and maybe even share it, just so YouTube algorithm gets a signal that this video is useful, and they will start recommending it to people who are interested in this kind of content, because at the moment for some reason YouTube is not really pushing this content out there, and I believe this video is really useful for people who are interested in it. The next question, what is the best shopping mall in Calgary? I'm really biased. I really like Market Mall because it's one of the first shopping centers that I visited, and I like how it's on one level. It's not too big. One level is really good for me because I'm usually with a stroller and I wouldn't want to stand there and wait for the lift to just take one flight of stairs up. So having everything on one level is a really big win for me, and they have my favorite coffee shop there. If you're in Calgary and you're looking for a good coffee, go to DeVille. DeVille is good. What did you do to help your skin cope with a super dry atmosphere in Calgary? I don't have a magic solution for that. We have huge bottles of body lotion in every bathroom and in the kitchen, so where we wash our hands, and we just use that. Which quadrant is affordable and best to live in Calgary? I've only lived in two. I've lived in Northwest and Southwest. Both are really good. And I think they have some affordable housing. So both of these areas are pretty safe from what we hear. Southeast is also pretty affordable, and there are a lot of young families there. Check out this video to see what kind of facilities they have there. So yeah, those three are pretty good, and I personally haven't experienced much of Northeast. I can't recommend Northeast. How did you cope with being so far away from your friends' community? I didn't cope. I still don't cope, and I think we better move on from this question before I start crying. Have you traveled to other parts of Canada? Unfortunately, not so much. We've traveled quite a lot around Alberta over the summer. You can see the playlist with some videos. We visited Banff, we visited Waterton National Park, and some other places, Drumheller, and yeah, a few other places. They're all fantastic and they're all so different, but I would really love to experience Montreal in the fall. That's one of my biggest dreams. Maybe next year. What's your favorite food you miss and one you now love here? I really miss French cuisine. I haven't found a restaurant that would be quite up there yet, and to be honest, I really miss Olly's mom's cooking, and I can't get it here. And something that I now love here, in case this is your first video on my channel, I'm a big fan of poutine. Like a huge fan of poutine, and I haven't found the best poutine in Calgary yet, but I'm on the hunt, and when I do, I will definitely share it on my channel. If you could change one thing, one decision you made during last year, what would it be? I think I know who this question is from. There is one, and I think Olly and I both agree on that decision that we made, that it may have been wrong. We kind of regret buying a house so soon after moving. We bought this house about 5 or 6 months after we moved to Calgary, and I think we should have given ourselves a little bit more time to settle down and see whether we see ourselves here for many years. I'm not saying that we're moving, but I think it's just such a commitment. We have a flat in England that we've been trying to sell for so long, and we just had to remortgage it for another 2 years for a fixed rate because it was just getting too expensive, and we didn't manage to sell it. We are now kind of juggling multiple mortgages, and it's very difficult and puts a big strain on our budget. So imagine in a few years we decide that we really miss Europe and we really want to go back to Europe. Having to sell a house again, it would be such a pain. And I really never ever want to buy a property anymore. I'm done, seriously done. So I think we should have given ourselves a bit more time to try and see if we see ourselves like growing old here before we committed so much to buying real estate. And I think we should have rented for a couple of years, maybe closer to downtown. Are there many Canadians living in Calgary, or do you find it more international? No, there is a lot of Canadians here in Calgary. There are a lot of foreign people, but they also identify themselves as Canadians now, most of them. So I think there's a lot of Canadians here. What's your favorite building in Calgary? It's a difficult one. I come from Europe, where I lived in a pretty building, where my pharmacy was in a pretty building, where all the malls were so beautiful that none of the Calgarian buildings come close with history and architecture. Although I really love the new public library downtown Calgary. You can check the video out here. It's really stunning. What do you need to do the first day or week in Canada? Again, this video has been posted. It's one of my most popular videos. Check it out here. And again, like, comment, share, just spread the word just so the algorithm will push it up and people like you will find it. How and where did you and Olly meet? That's a very romantic story. We only met online. Maybe some of you still remember there was this software called ICQ, like a messenger thing. And I just contacted a random guy who would speak French because I was trying to learn French at the time. And we started talking and boom, 12 years later, 2 babies later, we're here in Canada still together. Very romantic. As a Canadian growing up on the East Coast and moving to Alberta as an adult, I had quite a bit of culture shock. What was the most shocking thing about living in Alberta? I haven't experienced a culture shock yet, but the most shocking thing is how spread out Calgary is. The distances are still a little bit annoying, although I feel like after many months here, it's less and less shocking and we're kind of getting used to it, and I think it's a normal situation. So yeah, probably how spread out the whole city is. And for example, we live here, and let's say IKEA, where I like to go sometimes, is over there and it takes me like 45-50 minutes to get to IKEA. That's a long drive one way. The next question is having a car an absolute must for running errands? It is for me. I have 2 kids. When it's snowing, I don't feel like pushing them in the stroller that they hate through the snow. So I think for me, the car is essential. We live in a quiet area away from all the shopping, so we do need a car. We don't live too far from public transport, which is really good, but it's still a good like half-an-hour walk, and the public transport doesn't take you to like big shopping areas. So for me, it's a lot easier to drive, and there are a lot of people who just drive all the time. If you had your time again as a newly landed permanent resident, whereabouts in the Calgary area would you initially settle in order to get started? Would you get the rental of a property in order before you arrive, or would you look at more of a temporary measure like Airbnb, etc. in the first instance? I think I would do it the same way as we did. We rented an Airbnb for a couple of weeks and we visited places we wanted to rent before we made a decision. And to be honest with you, one of the rental places actually stank of smoke, of cigarettes. And it's a huge no for us, so I'm really glad we actually visited the place before we committed for like 6 months rent. So yeah, I'd suggest do what we did, rent an Airbnb first and find a place as you go. Visit the places that you want to rent. That's definitely the best way. Do you have any regrets about choosing Calgary as your home city? I mean, do you now wish you've had chosen another Canadian city? No, not really. We've done a lot of research that I mentioned in this video about the reasons why we picked Calgary, and we still stand by them. I think Calgary is the best choice for us in Canada. In your opinion, which is better for living and raising children, Calgary or Edmonton? I get this question all the time, and I never answer it, because if you watch my channel, you would know that a year ago we landed in Calgary and we haven't lived in Edmonton. This whole time we've only lived in Calgary. I haven't even been to Edmonton once, so I have absolutely no idea if it's any good, so I can't give you any suggestions, sorry. What was the hardest thing about adjusting to life in Calgary? I really like this question. I find 2 things: the climate and the distances. I've spoken about the distances before. I feel like we're almost there. We have almost adjusted to the distances. It doesn't bother us this much. We're not annoyed as much. So I'll skip that one, but be aware. But the climate is still something that is pretty shocking. It's so extreme. It's hot, it's cold, it's snowing, the snow melted, Chinooks come and go, the pressure is dropping. It puts a big strain on my health and Olly's health. It's very dry. You never know what's gonna happen tomorrow, so you can't prepare yourself for that. It's just something you have to experience if you're ready to experience it. And the last question, will you ever do a meetup in Calgary? Are you kidding? I do not consider myself as a celebrity, nor will I ever consider myself as a celebrity to do a meetup in Calgary. I'm still getting so shocked and embarrassed when people come over and say that they watch my channel, and it's so wonderful. I've been getting a few direct messages very recently on Instagram saying, I saw you in that place. And I just want to say, why didn't you come over and say hi? So if you ever bump into me, just come say hi. It makes me so happy. So I think this is it for today. I've gone through the majority of the questions. I'm sorry if I didn't answer your particular question, but I think I've answered them kind of overall. I just wanted to say a huge thanks for submitting your questions and for all the love that I received in the comments. If you don't want to miss my future videos, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so yet, but also click the notification bell sign, because if you don't, YouTube will slowly stop showing my content to you, thinking that you're not as interested, and I want to think that you are interested. So when I post next time, you will get an email or a notification from YouTube saying, first name Lily posted a video, go watch it, and you go and watch it. And lastly, I wanted to say a huge thanks for joining my channel and watching my videos, and we'll see you all again next time.